And we're back with another video, and today I want to talk about the billions of dollars that were wasted chasing a dream that Carlos Tavares had. And it's insane because when you look at it, I mean, it's something simple. Had he or anyone there just listened to the customer, just listened or paid attention to all of the social media posts while they headed down that road, they could have easily slammed the brakes on. Now, some are going to say, well, you know, the last administration in the U.S. was forcing us to go down this road, to go EV, to go, reduce their carbon footprint and go green and blah, blah, blah. And that's why they had to go down this road with the Hornet and the Daytona EV, only to find themselves, oh, by the way, switching to the twin-turbo i6 in their trucks and getting rid of all the Hemi cars. This was a decision that was made that they are going to defend with, well, it was the administration. And understand that, but had they made decisions earlier while Tavares was still in charge and did what Ford did and launched a cheap EV that would have sold and one that actually worked, kind of like the Ford Mach-E, then they would have had enough of those carbon offsets to be able to continue to have some semblance of the V8s. Imagine had they just reduced the amount of the V8s they made, not eliminated them. I don't know, kind of like Ford's done. If they just kept Hellcats and Scat Packs, or just kept the RTs and the SXTs and the GTs, and they updated the interiors and a small refresh on the body, even if they came out with this new body, they could have continued to sell very many while they launched an EV that was cheap that would have actually sold. And that would have protected them from any change in administration, or shockingly, appears that nobody at Stellantis, except maybe Tim Kuniskis, I would suspect that he probably was in the room going, hey guys, I don't know about throwing the brakes on this thing. I'm just guessing. Tim, we'd love to hear from you. But I'm just guessing he said, yeah, maybe we shouldn't completely turn off the Hemi thing. Maybe we should just kind of maybe keep some around. Hell, if they just kept Scat Packs around, keep something around. That way we can still have that profit level. And maybe we should make a really cheap EV, something that's kind of like the Mach-E. Maybe we should just copy somebody who's already done it. And by the way, should have done it 5 years ago. But instead, they came late to the party. But let's jump over and look at what happened before we get into some really good news and some silver lining, which proves that we were all right. So stick around for this. I'll talk fast. But first, you can all go read this article. Stellantis sales slide 10% in lackluster second quarter sales report, completely killing the stock. And yes, the announcement of Tim Kuniskis appears to have given a temporary slight bump in the stock, but it wasn't anything that was going to hold very long because Wall Street wants to see some better numbers, because the second they reported their sales numbers, they went down. And it's interesting, the more you read about this, and somebody did make a comment on one of my videos recently that sales were up on the Daytona. I'm like, from what? From like 3 to 4? Like, at a certain point, the statistics don't matter because the numbers suck that bad. Like, you failed worse, or you failed less than you did last year. But check this out. So U.S. sales fell 10% in the second quarter of 2025 compared to the same period a year ago, as the brand sold 309,976 vehicles. The numbers reflect continuation of a downturn, Stellantis sales, and stock market performance over the last 12 months. In 2024, sales fell 15% compared with the year before. In April, the company reported the first quarter sales this year dropped 12%. So here's what happens. If they keep measuring the same time year over year, so what happens from 2023 to 2024, it drops, it's 10%, let's say. And then it drops 15%, and then it drops 12%. You have to start adding these things up, that they're dropping below a significant drop. They're dropping from an already dropped number. So they're comparing this year to last year, which last year was down. So that means they're comparing this year with the year that was down. It's one thing if you compared it with the year that was up, which is how normal business works. You have up years, down years. It happens. When you have year over year or it continues to fall, you start having to add these numbers together, and you start reaching a number that starts to look a lot like 30+% drop in sales in an automaker that used to have massive domination in this space. It's just unbelievable when you think about it. But let's go look at the actual brand numbers. So here's the deal, how they performed recently. You've got Jeep increased by 1%, and the incentives were insane. Dealers who didn't hold out for stupid prices were able to move them, and they delivered lots of them. Remember, every video I've done at every single Cdjr dealership, there was a glut of Jeeps, and they were moving those Jeeps for massive discounts. I'm talking $10,000, $15,000 discounts off of already inflated prices, but bringing them to a place to where it would bring buyers in. Ram sales increased by 5%. Chrysler decreased by 42%. And remember, all they have is the minivan. They have like 2 models of the minivan or something. So they're down. That's pretty much makes them dead. I mean, they're pretty much dead. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But with a 42% drop off of an already big drop a year ago, that means they could be, without me having to look up the numbers, 50, 60, 70% down from, let's say, 2023 or 2022. That's a dead brand. That's why we're hearing nothing. Hopefully they do something now with Tim over all these brands and bring back a Chrysler 300, which sold hundreds of thousands of cars and would actually deliver them a profit, and they can bring Chrysler back. Dodge decreased, look at this, by 48%. What do they have for sale there? Well, I'll show you in a second. Fiat increased by 25%, but here's what's hilarious about Fiat. It represents a difference from 316 vehicles. And remember, they launched the 500e. I mean, that's insane. You think about it, the 500e was such a flop and failure, they had to do a stop sale and stop production on those things in 2024's second quarter compared to 394. So 316 to 394. They needed to sell tens of thousands of these things. This is what they sold. You want a deal on one of these things, go find one sitting on their lots. I hear they're going to bring out a hybrid or something maybe, and maybe they'll be able to move them. I think they're really cool cars, and I actually own a gas Fiat for a while, and while it wasn't a super great car when it comes to reliability and build quality, it was just a cheap, fun, stupid car that we had for a period of time. Alfa Romeo decreased by 51%. I think even the Tonale and the Stelvio folks were like, you're selling it as a freaking Dodge now. So now you're charging us, 25% more or 20% more or 10% more because it's got an Alfa Romeo badge. We're not going to buy that thing. It's a Dodge. And then we're over here saying, why are we going to buy a freaking Alfa Romeo, which is already too overpriced? If we wanted Alfa Romeo, we would have bought one before. So they're down 51%. And they didn't talk about Maserati because nobody wants to talk about Maserati because Maserati is just a bad word, no matter how you cut it, because they're losing. And then they bring back Tim. And then they bring back the V8. And this is the good news. We'll wrap up with just some I told you so stuff. But the good news is they came out with the 100,000 mile warranty. Tim Kuniskis came out with that June 18th. And now they came out and said, okay, he's in charge of everything. And by the way, we have this V8 as well. All these happened within weeks of each other, and they're going to be coming out with the Hemi again. Even though it's an e-torque, it's coming out. And here's what we said. Here's what the customer said. We're here for that. We're all about that. 10,000 orders for Hemi-powered 1500s within 24 hours of its return. Now, put that in perspective with all the people who are in love with the twin-turbo i6s and screaming, it's the greatest thing ever, it outperforms the V8, blah, blah, blah. In the end, 10,000 people already showed up, and more are going to line up and buy that truck. It's going to be like their greatest success next year. Just stay tuned for that. And, of course, you got to give credit where credit's due. Kuniskis has been pushing for that probably since the day he came back from his, quote, retirement. But let's talk about how they got here. So the Daytona, Carlos Tavares' little gamble here to get his big bonuses, dead. The RT is gone. Will not be back for 2026 and has been a living nightmare for anybody who has bought one based on what I'm reading in the forums. And here's what's really fun. If you want to talk about the losers of 2025, let me see here. All right, here's a shocker. Well, let's start here. Chrysler minivan, look at this. Chrysler Pacifica, 50%, 53% decline versus Q2 of 2024. That's brutal. So that's a company that's dying. It even says here, it's just dying. It's like, what are they doing here? It makes no sense. It says Chrysler brand hasn't had much in the way of new products for several years, and the brand is starting to fade into the background. So that's what's happening there. Big mistake in killing the 300. You probably should have left that thing there for a while. Dodge Hornet, of course, no shocker here that this thing is a complete abysmal failure. And not only did they do a stop sale this year, it may still be in place for some safety issues, but it moved just 1,539 units in Q2, down by 64% compared to the same period last year. This compact SUV is down 52% so far this year. That's just brutal. And then it goes on, that along with a slow start for the new Charger Daytona contributed to a 48% decline in the Dodge brand. So everything they've done has led to just disaster. I thought this would be an interesting video just to put in perspective that we can all say, rather than spending $30 billion, billions of dollars, the Dare Forward program initiative, they set aside $30 billion to go after this whole all EV and green thing by 2030. And now even the head honchos at Stellantis are saying, yeah, we need to walk back that whole Dare Forward initiative because it's cost us a fortune. And then they come out with a freaking Ram 1500 with a 5.7 Hemi, and 10,000 people fight to get in line to buy it. There's more orders for the 1500 Ram with the Hemi in it than all the sales for the Hornet and the Daytona combined. That's insane. Tell me that doesn't scream out that they should have just read all of our comments on all of their social media posts and watched a few of our videos, and they could have saved themselves tens of billions of dollars in brain damage as well. So with that, everybody, let me know your thoughts. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.